John DeLorean was once one of the brightest stars in the American car industry. In the 1960s and early 70s, he had a reputation for being innovative, ambitious, and bold. He was credited with helping create the Pontiac GTO, one of the first true American muscle cars. By the time he was in his 40s, he was a top executive at General Motors, one of the biggest car companies in the world. But DeLorean wasn't like most corporate executives. He was flashy, he wore sideburns, he dressed in stylish clothes and drove sports cars. Some people loved him for it. Others thought he was too much. Either way, he didn't quite fit into the mold of a quiet, obedient company man. Eventually, DeLorean decided he wanted to build his own car company. His dream was to create a sports car that was fast, futuristic, and environmentally responsible. He also wanted it to be built ethically, with fair treatment of workers. It was a big idea. Some would say too big, but DeLorean believed he could do it. In 1975, he founded the DeLorean Motor Company. To raise money, he used his personal savings and reached out to investors. He promised them something new and exciting. A car that didn't just look different, but one that stood for something. His plan was bold, to build a completely new car from scratch and to manufacture it in Northern Ireland, which at the time was facing high unemployment and political unrest. The British government, hoping to bring jobs to Northern Ireland, agreed to help. They gave DeLorean about $120 million in loans and grants. It was a massive boost, and DeLorean used that money to build a factory near Belfast. It created thousands of jobs, which was a big deal for the local economy. The car itself was called the DMC-12. It had a stainless steel body, gull-wing doors that opened upward, and a design that looked like it came from the future. It was instantly recognizable. But despite its looks, the car had problems. For one, it was expensive. At around $25,000 in the early 1980s, it cost more than many sports cars with better performance. The engine, a V6 made by Peugeot, Renault, and Volvo, wasn't very powerful. Some critics said the car didn't drive as well as it looked. There were also issues with quality control. Many of the early models had defects and had to be fixed before they could be sold. Still, there was excitement. The car was different. It stood out. And some people really wanted one, but not enough. When the DeLorean DMC-12 officially launched in 1981, the timing couldn't have been worse. The US was in a recession, interest rates were high, people were buying fewer cars, especially expensive ones. On top of that, the company was spending a lot of money and not bringing in enough revenue. By the end of 1981, things were looking bad. DeLorean tried to raise more money to keep the company going. He met with investors, banks, and governments, but he was running out of options. The company needed around $17 million to stay afloat, but nobody wanted to take the risk. Then came the most shocking part of the story. On October 19, 1982, John DeLorean was arrested. He had been caught in a sting operation by the FBI. They accused him of trying to make a drug deal to raise money for his struggling car company. Specifically, they said he agreed to help smuggle over $20 million worth of cocaine. The news exploded. A car executive turning to drugs to save his company? It was almost too wild to believe. DeLorean claimed he was set up. He said he was desperate to save his company, and that government agents pressured him into going along with the plan. The case went to trial, and in 1984, a jury found him not guilty. They agreed that he had been entrapped, that the government had basically tricked him into the deal. Legally, he was off the hook, but by then, the damage was done. While DeLorean was fighting his legal battle, his car company collapsed. It officially went bankrupt in late 1982. Around 9,000 DeLorean cars had been built before the factory shut down. That was the end of the original DeLorean Motor Company. But the story didn't end there. The car itself became a cultural icon, thanks to a movie that came out just a few years later. Back to the Future. In the film, the DeLorean was turned into a time machine. Its sharp, futuristic design was perfect for the role, and suddenly the car that had failed in real life was a star on the big screen. People who had never even heard of the car before became fascinated with it. But while the car's legacy grew, John DeLorean's life became more complicated. After the DeLorean Motor Company went bankrupt in 1982, and after John DeLorean was found not guilty in the drug trial of 1984, he was technically a free man. But his life and his reputation were never the same again. He had once been one of the most famous figures in the auto industry, a man who had climbed to the top of General Motors and then left it all behind to chase his dream. But after the trial, most investors didn't want to go anywhere near him. His company was gone, and the money was gone too. Over the next few years, he faced more legal issues, civil suits from investors, creditors, and former employees who felt they had been misled. Some of those cases dragged on for years. In the late 1980s and 1990s, DeLorean lived in relative obscurity. He tried launching a few new ventures, including a wristwatch company and a plan for a new sports car called the DMC-12. But nothing took off. Most of his time was spent in courtrooms or dealing with bankruptcy proceedings. At one point, he even filed for personal bankruptcy. For all his ambition and vision, John DeLorean had become more of a cautionary tale than a success story. But while his business life had fallen apart, the car itself, the DMC-12, was gaining a strange kind of second life. In 1985, the movie Back to the Future changed everything. The filmmakers had chosen the DeLorean not because of its performance, but because it looked futuristic. It had those stainless steel panels. It had gull-wing doors. It didn't look like anything else on the road. In the movie, the DeLorean becomes a time machine, and suddenly a car that had been a failure in the marketplace became a pop culture icon. People started looking for DeLoreans again. Fans of the movie wanted to own one. Car collectors became interested, and over time, the car developed a kind of cult following. Only about 9,000 were ever made, and many had been scrapped or abandoned after the company collapsed. But thanks to enthusiasts and mechanics, hundreds were kept alive. Some were even restored to showroom condition. Then something even more unexpected happened. In the mid-1990s, a man named Stephen Wynn bought the rights to the DeLorean name, along with a huge inventory of leftover parts. He was a British-born mechanic who had been working in the US and had a passion for the car. He set up shop in Texas and formed a new company, also called the DeLorean Motor Company. But to be clear, this was not the same company that John DeLorean had founded. It was a completely new business, using the name and some of the old parts. Wynn's company specialized in repairing, restoring, and even building new DeLoreans using original parts and chassis. For fans of the car, this was a lifeline. Now there was a place to go for parts, repairs, or even a refurbished car. Over the years, Wynn's company has kept the DeLorean alive. They've talked several times about building an updated version of the car, including an electric model. There have been plans and announcements, but delays and regulatory hurdles have slowed everything down. As of today, no mass-produced new DeLorean has hit the market, though the dream keeps coming back every few years. Meanwhile, John DeLorean's personal life remained complicated. He had been married 4 times and had children, but his relationships were often strained. In interviews later in life, he spoke about how the legal battles and financial collapse had taken a huge toll on him. He still believed in what he had tried to do, but he admitted that things had gotten out of control. John DeLorean died in 2005 at the age of 80. At the time of his death, he was living quietly in New Jersey. The world remembered him for many different things, some good, some bad. To some, he was a bold visionary who tried to shake up the car industry. To others, he was reckless, naive, or too ambitious for his own good. He was all of those things in different ways at different times. Today, the DeLorean DMC-12 is remembered more fondly than ever. Not because it was the best car, but because of what it represented. A mix of innovation, risk, failure, and strange success. It's a story about dreaming big and about how sometimes dreams don't go the way we expect. Car fans still gather at events with their DeLoreans. Some have even turned their cars into Back to the Future replicas, complete with a flux capacitor and time circuits. Others keep them as original as possible, preserving history. There's also been renewed interest in John DeLorean's life. Documentaries, books, and even a few dramatized movies have told his story, sometimes focusing on the drug trial, sometimes on the car, and sometimes on the man behind it all. But what really happened to DeLorean? He was a brilliant engineer and a bold entrepreneur, but he took huge risks. He trusted the wrong people at times. He overpromised, and in the end, his company collapsed under the weight of its own ambition. He was cleared of criminal charges, but the fallout destroyed his reputation and his fortune. Yet the car lives on. That's the strange twist in this story. The company failed. The man behind it lost almost everything. But the car, The very thing they tried to build against all odds became a legend. And sometimes that's how history works. It's messy, it's complicated, it doesn't always make sense, but it leaves behind stories that people never forget. So what really happened to DeLorean? It's a story of a man who challenged the system, built a company from nothing, and tried to change the auto industry with one bold idea. He didn't fail because he didn't try hard enough. He failed because building a dream is harder than dreaming it. John DeLorean's name became a headline, a courtroom drama, and eventually, a legend. Not because everything went right, but because everything went wrong in a way people never forgot. And the car? The car outlived the company. It outlived the scandal. It became a symbol, not just of the future, but of what it means to take a risk and leave a mark. Now, decades later, that symbol is being reimagined. The DeLorean name has returned with the Alpha 5, an all-electric sports car that honors the past while charging toward the future. With futuristic styling, a 300-mile range, and lightning-fast acceleration, the Alpha 5 isn't just a tribute, it's a statement. The gull-wing doors are still there, but so is a new vision. From cryptocurrency reservations to cutting-edge design, DeLorean is aiming to prove that, even after all these years, the dream never really died, it just evolved. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and hit that subscribe button.